Well, good morning. Just a little bit about Globe Creative before we start. Globe Creative works with the world's museums and partners like Discovery and National Geographic to create traveling exhibitions around Asia, China, and the Middle East. We have been doing this for about 8 years now. We are one of the few people in the world that do what we do. We're very proud of what we do. It's been a long and hard journey, but I think when I show you some of the examples of our work, you will see how we've dealt with change and how change has impacted everything we have ever done. So let's start. Okay, change. I want to ask a question first, is that, what does change mean to you? I would like a show of hands, please, on how many people can say they love change, that they will embrace change with all their heart. Show of hands. How many of you like change? Oh my God, a really evolved group. Oh my God, oh my God. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you something honest, okay? I actually hate change. Seriously, everybody says, oh no, but you are the person that would embrace change. Absolutely not. I actually do this. Big time. Dig me a hole and I will go in there. I like to know that if I do X, I'm going to get Y, or a variation of. But please don't throw me something out of left field because that's unpredictable. And unpredictability is really scary. As a creative business entrepreneur, I don't want too much change. Help, help, help. You know, constant is good, constant is good. But I guess the thing over the years that I've been forced to accept, and I'm the kind of person you don't have to throw against the wall a few times, is that change is inevitable. You know, guess what? It's around to stay, and you have two options. You can lead the change, or you can be dragged along with it. Okay, so I think I choose to lead change. So, what does leading change mean? I think it means a few fundamental things in the way we approach change. The first thing is lose the formula thinking and the box. I think for a lot of us Asians who've been brought up in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is my home, there is a tendency through the education system to be taught to rote learn. I'm really good. If you tell me something, I can throw it straight back into your face exactly the way you want it without the full stop and line and commas. I mean, I'm really good at that. What I think a lot of the locally grown creators are not good at is actually thinking beyond the boundaries. There's a bit of a fear thing there that they might be wrong, you know, not too good, lost of face there. So lose the formula thinking. The second thing is to have a disciplined approach to the problem of change. I think there is a lot of what's the latest, greatest, hottest idea? What's going to give the biggest wow? But then it doesn't go beyond that. And I propose that for real sustainable change to be active and to affect, you know, change on every level, I think you need to be constantly thinking about change that is meaningful, authentic, and commercially viable, okay? Just coming up with a great idea does not mean sustainable change. Got to get those things in, and they are really important. Another thing is not to be afraid of risk, or for having that great idea, for that matter. When I was in my first job at DDB, I remember the creative director saying to me, some of the best ideas in the world never go anywhere, they end up in the bin. Why? Because they appeared to be way too out there, way too risky, and nobody took the time to analyze, to research, to really find out the reality of the viability of that idea. So important, don't trash it out before you've had a thought about it. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about a place that is very good at change. We all live in Hong Kong. It is a city of change. It is a place that deals very well with change. And it is a place that I'm going to talk about in terms of how it's evolved and survived on change. For those of you who've been here for a long time, you probably remember Hong Kong like this. But today, We are one big, bad, sassy city. You know, there is 7 million of us every morning that wakes up and goes about dealing with change every day. And change happens both on a macro and micro level, and they both affect our business, and they both have to be taken into consideration when you're dealing with change. So just in recent history, some of the momentous things that Hong Kong have been through, do you remember that? 1997, I was there. And the big change for Hong Kong was, what was our identity going to be? After 100 years of the Brits, we now have the Chinese. And it's like someone like me, who's been born and bred in a colony, I'm not sure I know what that means. And I could tell when we lowered the British flag and we put up the Chinese flag, the sense of fear and uncertainty that was on the faces of everybody was there. Okay, the global financial markets, major crash that affected us. Bird flu, chicken flu, swine flu, do you remember? The phones didn't ring, nobody was on the MTR, the city became silent. How did we deal with that change? And then on top of that, we had the Asian financial crisis in 2004. And I remember so many of us, while we weathered one change, did not weather another. To be successful in Hong Kong is to be able to weather change, whether you like it or not. And of course, in recent history, one voice, one vote. There comes a time when we need to take what we want into our own hands and affect change. And Hong Kong people have just started to do this recently. One voice, one vote. We want our voices heard. And of course, the umbrella movement, which is very much about, I want to say in the leadership of Hong Kong, I want to say in my future, it's not just about what the government wants, it isn't just about what Beijing wants, it's about the people of Hong Kong. So, just like a chameleon, change is something that Hong Kong has become very good at doing, and actually each time it changes, it reinvents itself. If you look at our history and you look at what's happening now, we're not only good at change, we're good at taking that change, reinventing it, and making it ours. So Hong Kong's identity, it's tied into being able to change. And I think it is in the DNA of the place, and it's certainly in the DNA of the people. And I'm going to end later about something that we did for Hong Kong, and that's why I can actually tell you what I say now can be proven in facts and points. Okay, in our effort to change, to become a city that's bigger, faster, stronger, taller, I want to ask the question, has all this change been for the good? Okay, I actually think the majority of it is pretty good, but seriously, there are some big stats attached to Hong Kong. Did you know that we've got more skyscrapers here than in New York? New York is a bad second, lagging way behind, okay? So this is Hong Kong reaching for the world. We built up and we built tall, reaching the skies. Of course, we have one of the busiest container ports in the world, and of course, the busiest air cargo terminal in the world. Fast, 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 efficient, efficient, efficient. Business, 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 money, money, money. And of course, our infrastructure is absolutely fabulous. How many times have you come back from Europe or the US, see your Cathay Pacific plane land at Chap Cock and go, yes, I'm home? Well, that's because we have great infrastructure. And my favorite thing in the world, going on the MTR. The MTR is probably one of the world's most efficient companies. 1.6 billion people are carried every year on these little tubes that go around Hong Kong. They have a 99.9% on-time arrival rate, and seriously, we protest if they're 1 minute late. So faster, stronger, more efficient, definitely the MTR. But not to be beaten, the first tram in Asia, the Peak Tram, carries 4 million passengers a year, and it's still here. So I guess the thing is, after all these great achievements, the tallest buildings, the most efficient port, great infrastructure, who actually is the person that is in charge of change in a place like Hong Kong? I mean, who actually changes what? Now, in Hong Kong, we of course have our government, we love them, but actually, as a city becomes more and more economically successful, as more people become more powerful in terms of what they can spend, they actually want to then say, I don't want to just spend, I want to have a say about my future. So, Hong Kong people, what are they saying? Well, they're demanding change. They're demanding change in how they're governed. They're demanding change in how they're policed. They're demanding change on how our institutions are run. They want to know what the police are up to or not up to. We want to know how our children will be taught, what will be taught, and what their future will be. And of course, we want to continue to be economically successful, but success now has the consideration of all those other factors that were never considered before. Our environment, our oceans, our seas. Is it really necessary? So it's no longer the government just leading and saying, yeah, we're going to go. They were great. They go and we went. But now, as the city has evolved, a city can no longer live on its economics. It must live on the other things that make a city great. Now, we can go on for hours talking about whether Hong Kong has good change or Hong Kong has bad change. But I think one area where there is no debate is that Hong Kong, in its effort to become bigger, stronger, taller, bolder, we have left behind the soul of our city, what makes this city great, which is its people and our cultural heritage, tangible or intangible. I think that it's time, and I think everybody recognizes that there is a need to revive the cultural part of our lives to go along the economic side so we really can be Asia's world city. I often laugh when people say, Hong Kong, Asia's a great city. Well, it is a great city, but it's not a great city in the sense of art and culture. Now, of course, the government has also realized that we need to change this. And of course, the government of the big, bold, bright thinking set builds West Kowloon Cultural District. This, when it finishes, will be the world's largest dedicated cultural district in the world. Very Hong Kong. Big, loud, bold. But it's been 12 years in the making. We were there at the beginning and still with them now. I often say in that period of time I could have had a fully flesh-grown son. And guess what? We're still not there now. So while it'll be fabulous and it will put us on the map culturally when it gets done, is Hong Kong going to wait? Are we going to wait for this and let just culture percolate along slowly, slowly, slowly? Well, the answer is no, because in Hong Kong, it is the private enterprises, the commercial world, the individuals, the not-for-profits that all band together to move the creative enterprise along. It is not government, and while they are very good doing lots of things, in this case particularly, it is not government that's driving the decisions to cultivate and nurture our art and cultural space. It is private enterprise like us that is driving the change in the art and cultural space to make it more accessible for all. I'm of the firm believer that art and culture is for everyone. It isn't just for people who can afford to fly and look at museums and are educated and can afford to do art and culture. That is not what art and culture is about. I happen to like people, and I think culture should be there when you're born, and it should be something that you are entitled to enjoy and experience whoever you are and whatever you do. And I think that with people like us, our response to how to change this cultural space is to very much get as many people involved as possible, reach as many people as possible in the things that you do. And Globe's response to making culture more accessible was actually to launch the first museum in the mall in the world. Now, what is this? Museum in the mall is literally putting world-class exhibitions into public spaces, like shopping malls. Yes, shopping malls. We are putting museums into malls. I can hear people going, oh my God, yes. I mean, that was exactly the response when we did it in 2004. And this was the Picasso, the world's largest, that we had loaned from the Centre Pompidou. It was something that was very simple. I was told that this was going to be the end of my career, that people in Hong Kong didn't like art and culture, and they didn't know who Picasso was. What are you talking about? Picasso? They had no idea. And what is this thing? How are you going to explain it? But the thing was, we did spot the opportunity. We did do our research, and fundamentally, I believe that all these naysayers, most of which were working in museums and other established cultural establishments, were not true. We could break the boundaries on this. And so we did. I spoke French constantly for about 3 months, and we got this massive Picasso to Hong Kong. And the result, I didn't lose my career. 2 million people came to visit the Picasso in just 3 weeks. And I'm not talking about just 2 million of the IFC handbag set. I am talking about people who traveled all the way from Taiwan or Tinshui or other places, especially to come to this thing. That was an incredible change result. And I have to say thank you to IFC, because it's the first time they've transformed their mall, which they would have rented out and got lots of money. They trusted us and did this instead and transformed their entire space into a museum. So that was our first foray into putting world-class exhibitions into a public space, free for all. There was huge response to this from all different types of stakeholders, including the media. And the New York Times and the Washington Post thought we were wonderful, said we were the best thing since sliced bread, and the best thing that had happened in the museum world for 20 years. And I think this really did give a bit of a kick to the massive, vulnerable museum institutions all around the world, because for the first time, somebody else was able to make art and culture accessible to the numbers they have never seen before. So, was it a success? Absolutely. What was the process? I think the process was change all the way through. The first change was that we spotted an opportunity change in the space. The space didn't have this, we thought, why not, okay? We then researched the reality of the change. I mean, seriously, did the sums, and really did the sums again, and go and, found people to speak to. And basically, after you've done that and you've worked out your risk profile, whether it's reputational or financial, the only thing left to do after that is hand on heart and jump. There comes a point where no more maths, no more discussions. You've got to feel that it is the right thing, and with the facts and figures behind you, you jump. These are the guys that jumped off to IFC for the Lara Croft film. I was there. So it was that kind of, oh my God, ah! And that's really how it felt like when we did Museum in the Mall for the first time. Now, since then, we have done more. And what I want to talk about next is how to do things sustainably in the face of constant change. So, after launching the world's first museum in the mall, well, we decided, hey, we know what we're doing. We changed the face of how museums think. We changed how audience, looked at and had an experience with art. We got sponsors and venue partners all supporting us. No problem, go Karen, okay? So do you know what we did? Of course, very ambitious. We launched the world's first traveling museum in the mall. So before, when we had just put a museum exhibition in one spot, we thought, aha, we just take it on the road, just like a concert. I can do that, I can. So we bravely went forth. Our partners, National Geographic, who we're known for a very long time, also needed very much to get into this market. So they said, okay, together we're going to do the first traveling museum show in the world, in this part of the world. And the story was very much like the ancient treasure ships that used to travel the maritime Silk Route. So it was a lot of history. And the experience was about 1 million people who saw this over 3 cities. The museum show was heavy with artifacts, heavy. We had 40 crates of gold, silver, bronze, and precious porcelains that we traveled for over a year. It was opened by the Sultan of Oman, and we were very, very lucky. We had dignitaries like Ban Ki-moon who actually so fell in love with the exhibition and what the story was saying, which was very much friendship between nations through diplomatic means and trade, that he actually invited us to exhibit our exhibition at UNESCO in France and at the United Nations in New York. So that was a really lovely thing to do. Now, that all sounds very good. 1 million people, 40 crates of gold, silver, and bronze, working with one of the world's largest scientific and educational organizations, National Geographic. But the truth was, and I have to be really honest with you, we truly underestimated the degree of difficulty of delivering our own concept. Because why? We did not properly assess the amount of different changes that was involved in this project. Just because I had done one doesn't mean I can do another, because guess what? You look at the two and it's nothing in terms of scale, in terms of depth, in terms of sheer number of stakeholders that had to be involved to be convinced. I mean, one very simple thing, one Picasso, 40 crates of gold, silver, and bronze. One museum. We were dealing with 2 museums, 3 government organizations, and all the bureaucrats in between, and all the legal issues of traveling precious artifacts around the world. So we did not analyze and research all those other things. So to you, change, yes, all the time. But for a project, one set of change is never the same as another set of change. So yes, inevitable and constant. I'm now going to basically end by going back to Hong Kong, a city where I was born and bred. We were very lucky. Last year, we were asked to create the first post-1997 story on Hong Kong. It was a privilege because, there's been many stories of Hong Kong, but Hong Kong History Museum does a fabulous thing over there, so we didn't want to do that. So it was like, oh my goodness, how are we actually going to tell a Hong Kong story? A story that's constantly evolving. I mean, curators do things usually that are already written, not that is happening right now. So the whole curatorial board's going, over to you guys. So along with our friends, I found my tribe, and we decided the only way we could curate the show was to go out and ask the people. And so with our friends and partners, including Ellie and Cruz, we ended up doing over 250 in-depth interviews with Hong Kong people across 3 generations, across 40 different ethnicities. And we went to ask them their stories of Hong Kong. And based on that, we then curated the show. This was extremely scary for our curatorial board, because this was like, oh my God, no, don't do it this way. We do not do it this way. It is got to be all written back and, not this way. And the time that we were doing this was during the umbrella movement. So there was also a lot of political sensitivity, should we say that? And I said, something, it's not about what we say, it's what they say and the way we present it. So we curated a show and we talked to them, and they talked to us back about the changing landscapes of Hong Kong, geographic, political, social. They also told us about the changing face of Hong Kong through trade, from a fishing village to mass manufacturing, to the entrepot that we are. And we also talked about the story of migration. Hong Kong ultimately is a city of migrants, and the success of this city of migrant story is actually what makes us strong. Over 60,000 people came, often more than once, to see their own story. They trusted us to tell a story that is still being told now. Now, whether you are 18 or 88, the one thing that all 250 interviews came back with was they talked about change. They talked about how change has affected them as an individual and how change as a collective has made Hong Kong what it is today. So, yes, change is definitely scary. Change is definitely unpredictable, and I still do this every so often. But I've decided that leading change is the better way to go. So, find your tribe, find people who are like-minded. There's going to be enough naysayers and people who are going to poo-poo you anyway, so just go and get strength from those who are like-minded and who are also grounded. Go spot that opportunity that can lead to meaningful change. Meaningful change is halfway to getting a successful outcome. Anything superficial won't deliver it. Go and research, go and analyze, go and assess that opportunity you've spotted, and go and have a real look at whether you can do this. And then when you've decided it's a go pretty much, then you take the leap. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much what I've got to say today. I wish you endless inventiveness and courage to bite off a little bit of change, more change in your life. And good luck. I'll take questions.
We are going to have a Q&A session. Just to let you know, if you do have time to stick around, it's well worth it. We have something a little bit special to finish today's event. So please stick around if you can. And we can probably do about 3 questions. First question for Karen. It's got to be someone. Wow, I'm shy today. We have one. Okay.
I'm just interested in the logistics. How did you get such big painting to Hong Kong?
Picasso, it came as a roll of carpet in a box, literally.
Okay.
Yes, it flew on its own plane and hit its own French security, but yes, it just came rolled up in a box. And when I saw it, it's like, this is it? And literally, we just parked it underneath the escalator at IFC, surrounded by guards, because it was too long and too big to go anywhere else. And then we literally opened the box and we unrolled it like a carpet. And while, of course, we were all gloved and all the floor was laid. I mean, it's a very fragile. I mean, it's so fragile that you can even see where the restorers have tried to mend it. It was a very lengthy process to carefully unroll flat and then rig and lift without doing any more damage. And I think the biggest problem is because the piece is so old, we could only expose visitors to it for a certain number of hours a day. So basically the 2 million people had to come in slots because the painting had to go back to sleep and rest in the dark before we allowed people to see it again. So it was logistically a nightmare. And I think the Pompidou did not expect that we could do it. And actually, when they first spoke to us, they said, you can only have it for 1 week. And I told them off because no way am I spending all my time, effort, and clients money to do this. And they eventually came and they saw how IFC, because of course they're a developer, right? They've got their own project manager teams who are engineers and everything. They've literally transformed the entire space. Climate control, light control, into a museum. And after that, actually, we were approached by many museums who wanted to do exhibitions with us. But our thing is not just to do exhibitions. And that was the first time she'd ever come out of Siberia. So it isn't about just any exhibition. It is stories that need telling. For example, she became the pop star of conservation because we're losing so many species every day, and she's found intact so many 40,000 years later. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Yes. Diane.
Thanks, Karen, so much for speaking. So my question is, what's the motivation for people to come out and actually see these things? Like, for example, the Picasso, was it because, you know, they know about the story of the painting, or they know about Picasso, or they just heard a lot of people going, like, what makes them care to attend?
Okay, there's a few different. There are people who definitely just love art or love what we're doing and therefore will come and see it. But the majority, okay, happen to be walking through IFC and they're going, between Starbucks and buying my Marlino Blahniks, I have time to go and look at this. And this is what cultivating the next generation of museum goers is all about. We have to put things that are engrossing. I mean, we can get them there, but if it's really boring, they're going to leave, right? So it's still about being able to tell a great story once you get them there. And then once you get them there, they go, wow. Then they become less intimidated and less not willing to go visit a museum. And I think as a result of our work, museums are also looking at how they can become less text-heavy and academic and, you know, become institutions that are much more welcoming and interactive. So it kind of is like potluck, but if you're putting them into spaces where people will see it, then by word of mouth. I mean, after 250,000 people a week going to see Luba, we couldn't stay in IFC anymore because the crowds were too big. So government called and said, okay, we'll take it at the Science Museum. And they took it, and for 1 month, it was their biggest attending exhibition ever. And it's one baby mammoth. She's cute though, but she's only her.
One more question? Yes.
What do you think that Hong Kong will look like and be like in 10 years' time?
I think it's going to look great. Hopefully, we will have WKCD up and running. And so we'll have that kind of big cultural statement out there. But I also think increasingly, more and more of us are choosing to be creatives working in this field, whether doing what we do or actually you're an artist. You know, there is more parents allowing their children to pursue creative careers without going, you know, you're really letting your family down because you're not a doctor or a dentist, you know, or a banker. I mean, maybe not a banker. But basically, I think our core group of creatives are just getting stronger and stronger every day. In 10 years' time, I think we will be leading the creative message in this part of the world. We'll be out there for sure.
Thank you so much, Karen. And thank you to Ellie and Cruz, our previous speakers, who introduced us to Karen. Thank you for sharing with us. We have a few more announcements, but please give Karen a round of applause.
I'm here to represent MGA Music for the Growth of Mind. We basically are a charity that offers free music education to all children, especially underprivileged children. This program is based on El Sistema Venezuela, or the system. Just briefly to explain to you, what is El Sistema? El Sistema is a method in which children are taught classical and folk music through an orchestra form. With this activity, with this method of teaching, the children develop a sense of discipline, motivation, self-identity, exclusivity, joy, and so on and on and on. So basically, the purpose of El Sistema is to develop for each individual, not only the children, but also the teaching and the staff, a sense of belonging, okay? So they can approach life with a strong sense of capability. So that's very simple. We offer the classes for free. The orchestra becomes like a family to them. In Venezuela, this idea became because of the higher percentage of crime for children. There's a higher percent of prostitution, drug abuse. So a small group of musicians, more than 40 years ago, they got together thinking that they have a gift to make things better for those in need, and that's the key for music. Music is something that is available to anyone, from any social class, any social status, for free. So they basically got together, started teaching in small neighborhoods, not well-privileged neighborhoods, some of them quite dangerous neighborhoods. And the program just got bigger, and bigger, and bigger, and bigger, and bigger. So when the program was about 10 years already, I joined it, and basically was part of a new experiment of social class for a system where all kids from all social status, those who live on the street, those who have just a little bit of, let's say, money in a way, those of middle class and those very rich kids were put together in one place just to play in an orchestra. And in that orchestra, the only rule we had was like to play music, to have fun with music. There's no discrimination, there's no black and white, there's no poor and rich. We just basically develop tolerance to accept each other just the way we are. So nowadays, well, Venezuela has more than 2,000 orchestras all around the country. The program have moved to the US, different countries in Europe, and now Asia. And I'm here to bring this method to Hong Kong and China. I know it's going to be a very difficult challenge, but it's a beautiful challenge. I've seen it, I believe in it, I'm part of it. Not only myself, but musicians like well-known conductor Gustavo Dudamel, maybe some of you know about him. That's why we're here, that's why I'm partnering with MGM, and we are very, very happy to make this thing happen. For sure, we're going to make it happen. It's been there for 40 years. We're hoping that we can bring that to Hong Kong for 40 more years as well. So I'm just going to have a small performance for you. I know everybody has to go right now to work. And thank you very much for listening.
There's a jar on the counter by Redback, and of course you can go to their website to make donations.
Actually, what I'm going to play for you was one of the first violin solo pieces I played when I moved to the US for my college music degree. So it's called Alamande from one of Bach's violin solo partitas.